What's going on, friends? This is the Year One Wrestling Podcast, a show that dives deep into the early stages and formation of your favorite professional wrestlers, bringing out their struggles, their fears, and most importantly, their most interesting stories. I'm your host, the King of Chaos, Logan Black. Thank you for checking us out on whatever platform you enjoy your podcast. We're all about showing love here, so if you dig what you hear, or if you just feel like being awesome, show some love, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, tell a friend, help us get the word out on the show. It's been a particularly rough week, 2 weeks, damn it, it's been a rough couple of months for a lot of people. But I'm just going to try and focus on the last week or so. I know, I'll just flat out say it. I'm speaking to you as Jake, not Logan Black. There's no gimmicks, there's no host. This is Jake, who I am as a human being. And I feel like at this point, a lot of you could understand that because, hot damn, a lot of what's going on right now are not things that I expected to see in my lifetime, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. It is hard for a lot of us in the wrestling community for the last couple of days, last week or so, to be our brand, our personalities that we put out there. It feels wrong. It feels performative. Honestly, putting this podcast out as is was like, I don't know, it's really hard for me because I don't feel like doing this. But I already had the interview edited, and I figure if anybody is listening to this, they have enough of an understanding about who I am and what I stand for to recognize that I can speak to you guys, I can try and throw positivity your way, but I could also just be real. And that's what I'm trying to do with this. So, outside of a couple things, I'm not going to give my normal spiel. You know who the guest is. This is the second part of that interview. But I just like to say, damn, I always end these podcasts with be awesome to each other and peace and love. And damn, I really think that we need a whole lot of that right now. Check up on each other. Be real. Listen. I think that's the big part. I don't want to go off too much on this because, y'all know I can go off. But just listen. Right now, there's a lot of hurt going on. And instead of interjecting your own thoughts or feelings, for a lot of us, just sit back and listen. Listen to people. That's all. Love and respect each other. On some positive stuff, I do want to highlight the fact that after May's numbers had come in terms of shirt sales that I was raising for Feeding America, we were able to throw them a nice chunk of change. I was really happy about it. I exceeded what I expected to sell, almost by double, which I think is really awesome. But I was able to throw that money their way, and damn, with all the shit that's going on right now, I'm planning on doing a little something else that I'm still kind of working on, so I'm not really entirely sure. So stay tuned. I'm going to be rolling with some more charity. But sparing any more, I just want to get right to that interview. And afterwards, with the permission of the people who make this show what it is, Funkenstein and Joanna and the Band Heroes, I'm going to forgo that. And I'm just going to give you a couple of places that you could donate some time or some money or anything like that to be able to make things a bit better. So, let's hop on in. Right to it, guys. This is a fun one. Real funny. Picks up exactly where it ended. We're getting Nick's first match. Nick Stapp, Volume 2 on the Year One Wrestling Podcast. So I'm assuming CPA was the first gimmick that you had.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's. I kind of assumed that. Other than you possibly having worked the Gleason show, which, I'm sure at this point you regret not working one.
Yeah, I just for like a weird experience, but I probably would have gotten killed because those guys were just dog shit. Actually, well, yeah. So CPA was my first real wrestling gimmick when I did my backyard slash doghouse run. I was CMF, which my friend came up with, and that was you could figure out what it stands for most likely. It was really, really cringy.
I have no idea. Let the people know.
Crazy motherfucker.
Yes. All right.
That's being noted right now. My life inspirations at the time were Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mick Foley, so that was that with that.
Absolutely brilliant. So as you're getting out there, PWS is giving you an opportunity to start working their shows. CPA is making his name. The ties, many ties being used. at what point do you start hitting your first like big road trip, and who was involved in that? What was going on there? What do you remember? What kind of stories you got from it?
So the weird thing, and like people ask me like how long you've been wrestling, and I usually like I'll say like, yeah, 6.5 years, but really like I only did shows for PWS pretty much exclusively for my first like 2.5 years. Just because like I don't know, I didn't have a car for the first year I wrestled, which is kind of a detriment to that whole idea. And then like I don't know, it's not that I didn't want to do other shows. I was just like kind of scared to, I guess, because I was like, I'm not good enough to do other shows, which, as you and I both know, I probably would have been the best guy on most shows, and I was fucking awful. So I'm trying to think. My first road trip was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let me think. The first notable road trip, at least, that comes to mind was the January 2016 Blitzkrieg Pro show. I went up with Smart Mark Sterling, Johnny Clash, Trent Beretta, and Brian Myers, Kurt Hawkins. And it was just like a super last minute thing. Like I was talking to Mark and he was like, yeah, come up, it'll be fun. And I like texted Brian. I was like, hey, is it cool if I drive up with you guys? He's like, yeah, totally, of course. Like Brian had been trying to get me to go to places with him for a while, and I was just like, like I had a girlfriend, like I lived with my girlfriend at the time. I didn't want to like not be around, which whatever to that. So yeah, like that, my first time going up there. So I knew nothing about geography at the time. Like I didn't know that Connecticut was above us. I didn't know like New England, how that worked. So on the way up, Brian and Trent did this weird signing at this like middle of nowhere sports collectibles shop. I think it's in Enfield, or it might be in Springfield.
Is it right? It might have been right next door. I think so. You're talking Brian and Trent drove up together, right?
We all drove up, yeah.
Right. I think I wrestled them that night.
Yes, you did. It was you and someone again. Against them two, yeah.
Dude Buster, that version of the Dude Busters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the spot you're talking about was right next door. It's a sports collectible comic book shop kind of thing.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's like legitimately anytime we do Blitzkrieg, Chris and I are like there for hours prior purchasing comic books and Funko Pops because we have no fucking control.
What was great about that place was like, Brian and I are both like pretty hardcore Met fans, and we went there and he's like, oh, like we first got there like before, well, I could say before people showed up, but not a lot of people showed up because it was in the middle of nowhere and I don't think the guy promoted it. But we were looking around and like this is 2016 and the most recent Mets anything they had was like 2008. Like it was like Carlos Delgado stuff, and we're like, where are we? This is so strange. Like we still talk about that to this day, like a lot. It was just like such a strange place. And then yeah, like we went up to the show, and again, I wasn't on the show. I think I had messaged Jeremy Leary like a few days before. I messaged like the the Blitzkrieg Pro page. This is when I started doing that. One day, if I, when the other shoe drops and things actually, I figure out I'd actually be a successful human being in pro wrestling. I'm gonna make a documentary, and it's just gonna be me scrolling through all the horrendously embarrassing promotions I sent stuff to. Anyway, so I sent my stuff to Blitzkrieg. They didn't get back to me, which is, as we know now, a very Jeremy Leary thing for them to do. So like I just went up with them. I think JT Dunn was supposed to be in some 5-way scramble match, and he couldn't make it because he got like surgery or something on like his eye. So Leary was like, all right, do you want to wrestle? And I was like, I mean, yeah, obviously. So you were on that show, so so the place that the show was at was Whirly Ball, right?
I missed that place. Yeah, Whirly Ball.
That place was disgusting. I remember like the little there was like this big locker room ish area. Then you went through this little room where like the people who owned it, I guess they lived there. And yeah, I swear there was like a 1-year-old child like just like ripping heaters like in its crib. Like it just stunk of cigarettes in there. And like I used I used to be like a pretty heavy smoker, but for me, even I was like, oh fuck, like this is miserable. It was just
I loved that venue because like the ring was in like the whirly ball court, which like for anyone who doesn't know, whirly ball is a mixture of bumper cars and lacrosse. Uh, it
I
is
didn't know
it's
that.
like you're playing lacrosse with like a giant ball in bumper cars, and like in that like enclosure was where he put the ring. So like it was just a really cool environment. But yeah, that's why I liked it, not because of the 1-year-old.
The 1-year-old chain smoking in the middle room. That was it was just strange because like it was my first time like going on a big wrestling road trip. I mean like I'd driven with like other guys to PWS shows that were in Jersey because again I didn't drive at the time. I remember just like being very bewildered by like how many people were on the show and like how many wrestlers there were like in general. Like I knew there were a lot of wrestlers, but I was like there's a lot of people here. Like I knew who like you were and I knew who like some people were, but I was just blown away at how many wrestlers there are. Like I know that sounds like a weird statement, but I mean, what did I know about New England wrestling? I knew that Killer Kowalski had a school in Massachusetts, and that was all I knew about New England wrestling. And then I get there, and it's like Anthony Green and like all these like weird people that I'd never met before, and I was just like, oh, this is like, but it wasn't like a complete shit show either. So I was like, all right, this is like kind of cool. Like I didn't really know what to make of it at the time. And then yeah, and then like that was my first of a million road trips. But yeah, that was my first like legit road trip.
That,
I know
that was the
for
thing
one.
about like Blitzkrieg shows. Sorry to cut you off,
Mm.
but the thing about Blitzkrieg shows at the time is that Blitzkrieg came from the ashes of this company called RPW, which is where like it was another like Western Mass company, and the promoter had passed away. He was a great dude, always took care of me out there. That's actually where like Leary and I like actually hooked up as like a unit, and those shows were like overbooked like 13, 14 match cards, which is why like Blitz in the early days was very much like these long, long cards, just like that. Because Leary was the right hand man of Eric, who ran RPW, who's
Mhm.
unfortunately no longer with us.
Yeah.
Now that I've taken everything, fucking down, talking about people dying, you were saying.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. That was my first road trip with other people. I don't know if I think I've told you about my first solo road trip to a wrestling show. It was also my first time wrestling in Massachusetts. As we both know now, I didn't know at the time because I wasn't like, I knew about indie wrestling because I knew about like the good, the big, the indie wrestling that was like well represented. I didn't know about like certain ends of indie wrestling. So again, as I said before, I was just sending out a million messages every day because I had nothing else to do, and I was like, "Hey, here's my resume, here's my matches, blah blah blah, whatever." So I would send out like literally like dozens of those every week, and this one place got back to me, and they're like, "Hey, we'll have you up, great." It was also the day after Pat Buck's bachelor party, which was in Atlantic City. I got like blackout hammered the night before. Thankfully, I got a ride back to Queens after that, and so I didn't know how bad traffic is going up to New England on any day of the week. So I'm like laying down, like trying to get over my like horrible massive hangover, and I look at Google Maps, and it's like 5.5 hours. I was like, I gotta be there like soon. Like I gotta be there before 5:30 certainly. So I drove up there. It was for House of Bricks Wrestling, which is, I don't think they're a thing anymore. I think they just had their last show recently.
I didn't
It was
even know
in
they existed.
yeah. Well, there's a reason. The New Bedford, Massachusetts, which is like right around the Cape Cod area, if I'm not mistaken.
I know New Bedford very well.
Yes. Um, so it was up in that area, and again, my first indie show, my first show going by myself, like just drove my little shitty '92 Toyota Camry all the way, fucking whatever, 200 miles up, 200 back, and I get there, and like the ring is kind of up, but like the ropes are all saggy and shit. And I was like, all right, I don't know anyone here. Like Demolition was there doing a signing. Demolition was doing a double shot that day, double shot meet and greet. They were doing that show that I was on, and then they were going to Lucky Pro, which is like I think on the other side of Massachusetts, which is a show that Brian and a bunch of the Cap guys were on that night. I was like, of course, you guys are on a cool show all going together, and I'm on whatever the fuck this show is that I'm going to. So I'm up there. I get out of the car. I'm saying hi to like the 3 people that are there. And again, I got there at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and the show was supposed to start at like whatever 7 o'clock probably. So again, like I'm walking around like saying hi to the handful of people that are there, and I'm like, it suddenly hits me like, Nick, you're not in Kansas anymore, kind of situation. I was like, oh, this isn't what I'm used to. You know, like I'm used to like all my friends, or at least like a reasonable amount of my friends being here, and I'm just here by myself. So I kind of like do like a Homer Simpson backing into the bushes situation. But instead of bushes, I back into a conversation between 2 guys who were on the show that night. I don't remember their names offhand, but a quick cagematch.net search will probably help me out, but I don't think it matters because I don't think they've ever wrestled outside of New Bedford, Massachusetts. So I back up, I turn around, and I'm just in this conversation now. Like I didn't ask to be in it, I'm just in it. And the guy was like, hey, brother, I'm so-and-so, whatever. I don't remember his name. And they were just talking, like they were in the middle of a conversation, said hi to me, and then continued talking. And I had nothing else to do, so I just kind of stood by them. And they were talking about, the one guy's like, oh, I'm going to have my last match with you, brother, blah, 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 whatever. And they informed me that they had wife swapped in real life. Like, not like the TV show, like, haha. Like, no, in real life, one had cheated on his wife with the other's wife. And then the other's wife, in a measure of revenge, had cheated on whatever. You get where I'm going with this. So yeah, that was, so like Blitzkrieg was like, all right, this is kind of cool. It's not like a complete shit show. It's fun. That was like my introduction to like, oh, this is indie wrestling. Like this is the fun shit that you tell your kids about one day, you know, like when you make it big, this is the shit that you remember.
And that story is very New Bedford.
Yes. Yes, as I found out, that is a very New Bedford, Massachusetts story.
So usually at this point is when I start delving deep into all the questions about, you know, oh, did you have like, you know, what hardships and doubt yourself? But fuck it, man. This has been like the most lighthearted conversation. Everything has been really fun and funny. I haven't stopped laughing the whole time. So fuck all that. Let's continue with laughing about some shit. I want to skip over your first year and go into the incredible feud that you and I had for an indie company in the New York area. Incredible. I genuinely enjoyed it. I had fun with most of the matches, but I want to focus on one match and one show because every time I bring this story up to anybody, I feel like I don't do the shit of this fucking show justice. And I feel like you'd be able to add, even though you showed up like 5 minutes prior to our match because you were double shotting.
If it's the show I think you're talking about, was it? So we didn't actually have a match, correct?
It was a match, kind of. There was a 1, 2, 3. I did pin you, and then cut a promo about tagging up with you after that.
Oh. Okay, I thought you were talking about something completely different. Right, okay.
Right, the one you're thinking of, I think, was like another Brooklyn show, but yes. Like we were supposed to have a match, but then like it turned into we didn't have a match, and
then you guys dropped.
We dropped the titles to
a makeshift tag team that was never going to happen again.
Right, and like So I thank you for giving me, like, I remember all this now, but I never do because I have to set this up. So the feud was me and Connor Claxton against CPA and former guest of the show, Francis Kip Stevens. We had set, I guess the feud had been set up. We'd had a couple matches, and then we were doing, like, for this company. So he had booked this thing where we were supposed to wrestle each other. We had hyped it. And I know you had been hit up by fans or, like, fans had commented and, like, I had fans like commenting on it as well, like, oh, this is, I'm excited to see this match because we had built this feud up.
Yes.
But then at the last minute, he decides like, oh, this match isn't gonna happen. Instead, Kip and CPA are gonna enter. They're gonna get jumped by Logan and Connor, and then in the most WrestleMania, what was it, 10 type shit I've ever fucking seen, out comes David Starr and someone else. I don't remember
Verna.
who. It was. So It was David Starr and Mike Verna. We're going to come out, and you guys were going to do the Bret Hart to Hulk Hogan, go get him Hulkster type shit. And we had like a 5-minute match with them, and they beat us. And legitimately, I'll never forget like David Starr coming to the back with the belt, and he told the promoter, he goes like, yeah, like I don't know like what my schedule is, man. Like I have a pretty, and David was like, he was still living in the States at the time, and he was working all the top promotions everywhere at the time. So he's like, yeah, like I don't know how much we can do. So I think after that, it was all for like the next 2 shows, because I think they only ran 2 shows after that. Surprise. That it was Verna and like makeshift tag partners that like there was no explanation put to. Verna was a one-man fucking tag team with whoever he wanted. But we're not going to focus on that show, because that's the lead-in to the other Brooklyn show they did, where it was it June or was it like August?
I believe it was June 11th, 2017, I believe.
So it was in this massive building. Like it was like a massive building. They were doing like some promotion with some like Lucha Libre promotion.
Yes.
So like there were some big name Lucha Libre guys on there. And they drew like the main event was Penta and Loki.
Yes.
Which like, again, 2017, Loki is just getting his way back to the indies where he's back at the top. Penta is legitimately like the fucking guy on the indies, and not someone that you saw in NYC that often.
No.
So they drew really fucking well for this show. I also remember doing really well at the merch table because of the draw, but that's unrelated. So I'm going to set it up, and then you got to come in with like your nuggets of wisdom on this. Because again, you showed up 5 minutes before our match.
Yeah.
We show up and nobody knows how to put together this ring. Mick Drake and Adam Chandler had showed up just like, trying to help out, see if they can get on the show. And they're putting the ring together. I'm there early, so I'm helping out where I can. But everyone realizes, yo, we're missing parts of this ring. And I go to the promoter and I go, hey, dude, like, this is a cross cable ring and you're missing the things that connect the cross cables. It's like, oh, what can you guys do? I'm like, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
And he's like asking me and Mick, and like Mick, I love Mick Drake. Mick is in there like, dude, like, what the fuck are we supposed to do here? And he's like, well, just, do your best. And I flat out told him, I go, look, man, like, I'm not going to be responsible for this, because if your ring fucks up, I don't want to be the one that, like, somebody comes for when they get hurt. So yeah. I'm not putting my fucking hands on this. Sorry. So the show begins an hour and a half late.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the pre-show. And by pre-show, I mean 4 matches on a pre-show. Then the show pauses again, because it's pre-show to main show, which usually it's 5 minutes just to get everybody like hyped up.
Roughly.
Nope, this was another hour and a half where the promoter is now running up to me and going, hey man, like I need you to fix up the ring. So I'm walking around and trying to like do everything, and I'm telling guys like, you just tighten the ropes as best you can. The ropes are sagging like it's fucking 75 in Memphis. Like they're sagging. And like the ring is a fucking complete mess because it's missing the thing to tighten everything up. Our match was supposed to be like second or third on the card, but you were double shotting, so we had to move it back. And then I think he moved it back again. Everyone's complaining about, I'm backstage getting dressed up, and everyone's complaining about the ring because it was a fucking death trap. Nobody could do anything off the ropes. I think the first half, mind you, 4 matches on a pre-show. The first half of the show was, I think, 7 matches. Not including the pre-show, of course.
Yeah.
You get there, and because, again, this is a massive building, it's June, it's like 80-something degrees out, there's no heat there's no AC in the building. People can't fucking breathe. One lady passed out.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, 2 people needed medical assistance during the show, at least.
The commissioner is threatening to shut the show down because people are literally passing out, and the promoter comes to me, because you had just gotten there, and just like, can you do the match in, like, less than 5 minutes? And we're like, fuck. So whatever we did call, which wasn't much, I think we cut, like, half of it out, and just had, like, this really, really awful match in front of a crowd that, like, was still getting their, like, seating, or, like, still trying to get water, or was leaving because it was fucking this by this point it was like 5.5 hours on a show before the second half started, so people just could not give less of a fuck about us. And yeah, we went out there and had this match, and then I cut a promo about tagging up with you.
Yes. Of course.
What else do you remember from this situation?
So, and this was, I think I had spoken to you a few days before, if I remember correctly, and I said, I think I'm doing another show on Saturday, but I'm going to be there. I just don't know when, so basically, what is now IWTV at the time was Powerbomb TV, I think, and they were having their own kind of show in, Pennsylvania
Oh, right, I remember that.
Yeah, I forget which town it was, but like it wasn't super far, so I was like, all right, I'll be able to make it. And I guess it helped that the show was the show that we were wrestling on was a complete shit show. So I'm on my way there, and I'm messaging you, and I'm like, hey man, I'll be there soon. And you pretty much told me like I have everything down, don't worry about it. I was like, all right, cool, thanks, I kind of like so like the promoter was originally nice enough to me, even though he like completely avoided all contact with me for the first like year he was running. And then when he finally used me, he was like, oh yeah, you're on every show from here on in. Like, I was like, yeah, go fuck yourself. So on my way there, I was like, all right, whatever, it's cool. I was with Johnny Silver actually, because I went to that other show with him, and he was on like, I think he was originally supposed to be on like first, but then the guy put him on like before intermission, so that's kind of what like jammed us up a little bit. So I remember we got there, and you were like, all right, I pretty much have everything ready. Like, let's just put, all right, yeah, it was 80 degrees out. Inside of that building, it was literally over 100 degrees.
Nobody could breathe. Nobody could breathe in there.
Our match was 5 minutes long, maybe 5.5 minutes long. I was sweating through my fucking shirt by the end. And like, okay, so I guess like I wouldn't say it was like an awful match. It was just like we were like just running. We were just running. Like there was no like stopping. There was no slowing down. We were just in constant movement because we had to like tell a story, I guess. Like we had like there was an objective to the match other than like,
and he had told us we had to tell this specific story because, like I said, I cut a promo about tagging with you afterwards. It was all about like you and I were going to be a tag team after this, despite the fact that you and I both came from separate tag teams that were just kicking the shit out of each other for like 3 shows prior.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other like mind-boggling thing about this is like we were feuding for literally almost a year, because I think the first like real interaction we had was that, oh my god, that fucking double shot show that they did at Finbar. It was, I forget, it was like Kabam Wrestling or something was doing the pre-show.
Oh, dude, so like, yeah, it was Bam doing the pre-show, which was, it wasn't a pre-show, it was a full show with like 10 matches.
Yeah.
I remember, dude, because I was super close with Chris Levin, who was running BAM at the time, and I remember like all of us in like our circle of friends, we saw his card, which was like 10 matches long, and we're like, dude, you have 90 minutes for this show. This is never going to work. And he goes, no, it is. And like he literally, I don't know how he did it, but everyone did like, every match was like 5 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. So I think it might not have been the opener, but it was one of the first matches was Troy Nelson against Dickie Rods. And they literally went like 3.5 or 4 minutes, and Troy got to back. He was like, follow that. I went 4 minutes. Typical,
Listen, 4 minutes is
grizzled Troy fashion.
I was gonna say 4 minutes of Troy Nelson is 4 minutes more than I'd like to see anything he does. I wrestled. My match was me, Christian Casanova, Brick Mastone, and Little Guido.
Yeah.
Check it. I had worked a birthday show earlier that day. I did ring crew because it was our ring, and one of the students that was helping dropped the what do you call the side of the ring, the big giant metal thing, or whatever it is, the frame. So they dropped it on my knee. Right. So I had to wrap my knee in like my shirt because it was swelling. I have another kneecap on my right knee because of it still. Like the swelling got so big and calcified. Like I have 2 kneecaps. I wrestled the match after that. Like I could barely move. And then I wrestled again that night and then drove 5 hours to New Hampshire for my brother-in-law's wedding. I'll never fucking forget that day. I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So our rivalry started there, and that was August of 2016. I remember that weekend was like a comedy of errors for me because I remember for that Saturday. No, hold on. I'm trying to. Yeah, I think for that Saturday, I had originally bought tickets to go see Frank Turner at somewhere, and then Dennis. So originally that match that you were in, I was supposed to be in it too because I think that was supposed to be like a Blitzkrieg showcase match, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know, but that was the BAM show. I think the other one after that, I think was a 4-way tag. That's when we won the titles.
Yes,
you guys were in. It was us,
Space Monkey and
someone else was in there, but I don't think that I got in the ring with them.
I think it was Flip Gordon.
Yeah, Flip Gordon and Space Monkey. I think we did. I didn't even bother getting in the ring with them. And then I forgot who the other team was. Was it Reno's Heavenly Bodies?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. CTE hasn't fucked me over that badly. Yeah, like I it's etched into my brain. 4-way tag up on you, and we start the feud there, and then.
So again, this is August 2016. We started this big bitter rivalry that we were going to have. And like the whole premise was we were going to feud until I think the December show. Kip and I were supposed to win the tag titles, which whatever. I don't give a shit. It's a wrestling title. Like it's cool, I guess. It's cool for pictures, but other than that, it's like, okay, so now like whatever, where do we go from here, you know? Especially as the babyface tag team, it's like, all right, we captured the prize. Now what are we gonna do? We're gonna just wrestle the same. So that never happened, and then we just kept feuding and feuding. So I remember as a little backstory on my end, and I don't know, you might know about this, I might have told you about this, I might not, if not, whatever. So the promoter of this promotion that you and I are referring to, he had told me, he said, hey, instead of you guys winning the titles off of Logan and Connor, we're going to have you guys win it off of Stockade and Matt Tremont. And at the time, I don't think it's a thing now, but at the time, Kip and Stockade had like a legitimate real life blood feud.
I remember this.
Yes. So I told the guy, I said, hey, that's probably not a great idea. Like, I'm sure we could all be professionals, but I know on Kip's end, he can't fucking stand him. And he was like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's a thing. Like, that's legit. And he's like, oh, all right. I guess we'll figure something out. So that all ended up going into flux. And then again, we did the whole thing where it was kind of like, it was a meme between me and my friend group. Cause I told Beefcake about it. I was like, yo, so like, get this. So instead of us winning the titles from them, fake tag team David Starr and Mike Werner are going to win the title from them. I was like, and then who's going to beat them next month? It's going to be like fucking, I don't know, like Ricochet and like Lifeguard Mike Dell or something. Like this dude's just like making up tag teams. So we did that. You guys dropped the titles to David Starr and Mike Werner, who I don't think ever teamed again, which is hilarious. So
again, David Starr said, I'm probably not going to be able to do this again.
Yeah, like I'm literally not going to be in the country the next 8 shows you're running. Like,
right.
No. Oh, do you also, as another side note, do you remember the cool ass gimmick match that we wanted to do that never happened because no good ideas ever happened?
At that place? Yeah, I don't remember. Which one was it?
So I was talking to the promoter, and we had just had the match at Laboom where we were originally supposed to win the titles, and then we won, but then you said like, oh no, it's actually not for the titles.
Of course, wrestling booking, right?
Yes,
There.
Wrestling Booking 101. He said, no, next time, which was in fucking April, I think, was their next show. If I'm not, I don't remember exactly, but so you, me, and so it was initially I had come up with it, and then the promoter said, all right, let me take it to a group chat and see what everyone else thinks. We were gonna do basically the Hollywood backlot brawl, but we were gonna do a detention hall brawl where so we were gonna the next show was gonna be at La Boom where they have that big cool screen, and we were gonna basically pre-tape Kip and I sitting in a classroom, and you guys come in and you're like, basically you guys are going to be Biff or you guys are going to be like Bulk and Skull from fucking Power Rangers, and then you guys are going to be like, where are these nerds? And we were going to come out and just start going at it, and then we were going to brawl all the way to the building, and then we were going to finally culminate our feud, which never happened unfortunately, but I still think that would have been a money idea.
I completely remember that, and I remember him trying to work it out with the school and everything, and then just completely dropped it because who the fuck were we?
Yeah, exactly. So like on the way to that show, or like you had said like, all right, everything is pretty much set, and I was like, all right, cool, man, whatever, we'll get there when we get there. Sorry, but I had kind of like, I wasn't like trying to be a dick about it, but like, the promoter was like being so weird with me about everything. He like wasn't like giving me like real info on shit. So I kind of did that spitefully. And again, I wasn't towards you. And the only reason I didn't, like, I felt bad on your end because like you're just standing there, your dick in your hands waiting for me. But I was like, he knows how to call a match in in a short amount of time. He's not an idiot. He can, like Jake can handle this. I'm not worried about him. But I was just like, so I had such an axe to grind with the promoter over like just him like fucking up our whole thing. And again, I know it's wrestling and it's make believe, but like I was so excited for us to have like this big cool blow off match, and then it never happened, and then it just got like completely like shit on. So I was like pissed off about that. Actually, the match where you guys came out and jumped us, and then you guys lost to an imaginary tag team. I last minute pulled a double shot of a birthday party at Creative Pro that day because I was so pissed off at him, at the promoter. I was like, fuck you. I texted Kip. I didn't even text the promoter. I texted Kip. I said, hey, I'm doing a birthday party at Cap today, so I'll be there when I get there. I was like, we're not doing anything. We're getting beat up. That's it. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't need to be there to call a match. Like, we're coming out to the ring. You guys are beating us up, and then we're going to cause you guys to lose later. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I guess I kind of feel bad in hindsight, but it's like,
no, don't. Listen, that place was a shit show. It was straight garbage, like, all throughout. The fucking promoter is a massive, like, shitbag who, like, again, there's no other way to go about it. It is what it is, man. Like, I got no axe to grind with you on it. I think you were fine with everything.
Yeah, exactly. Again, like, so to go back, I don't think like the match was like bad necessarily. I haven't watched it, but it wasn't really bad. It was just like we didn't have time to like register or anything. We just went in there. I hit the ring and we just started beating each other up basically. And like afterwards we were talking or whatever, and he's like, all right, film a promo. He didn't even tell me. This is the great part. He didn't even like tell me about the thing with us teaming up. I didn't know about it until I heard your promo, and I was like, wait, what?
Right. He had me film this. So again, this is one of the reasons. There's a lot of personal reasons, but on like the not personal side of things, all you need to do to be like a half decent promoter, and you could attest to this because you've worked for good promoters and you've worked for the fucking bottom of the barrel, i.e. this guy. Legitimately, I think everyone I know who has worked for him and has worked like plenty of other places will all agree he is like among the bottom 2 or 3 promoters to work for. But all you need to do is just communicate. You have all the fucking power with that kind of stuff. And if you're not going to use somebody, all you need to do is just be like, hey, man, I got nothing for you this show. Or like, hey, man, like I think I'm going to hold off on using you. Or I got nothing for you at the moment. That's all you need to do. Is just be, I appreciate the work you put in. Done deal. Yeah. wrestlers certainly can be bitter about that, but that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're like, all right, film this promo, the next show, this is what we're doing, and then when like you give me that date and I'm hitting you up weeks, like, hey dude, just like confirming that I have this date down for you, just confirming, and you never fucking respond to me. Like, that's a fucking shitbag move, because at that point, I'm prioritizing you over other people where I could be getting that date filled, and, well, now I'm out money.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, I guess he wasn't as extreme with me about it, but he did do that a lot, where it was just like, so perfect example with that, and I know we're getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, but
no, let's go off on the tangent. Let's have some fun with this. We've already done enough time to the point where I'm gonna make this the first 2-part episode, which I'm actually super stoked for.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Leave off on the Dick coming out first day of training cliffhanger. So he had run another show, I think it was with that same Lucha company, and he was gonna have me. He was gonna have me in a match with Darius Carter, and he had us film this promo, and it was like really cool, and like the way we did it, like it made sense. And then like, he was like, yeah, we're gonna put a lot into it, and you guys are gonna have like this really cool match, and blah blah blah, and I have all these cool ideas for it. And like we filmed this like badass promo for it that I really liked and everything. And then like, I don't know, like a day, like less than a week before, I messaged him. I was like, hey man, so like, you want me to do any, like, do you want me to like record or whatever? Like, what's going on for this weekend? He's like, yeah, I don't know, that match isn't happening. I was like, well, why? Like, did you like, we already kind of like hyped it up a little bit or whatever. He's like, yeah, I don't know. The other guy I'm running with just like said it doesn't really make sense. So we're gonna have you and another person. So he was like, yeah, we're gonna have you and this guy. And I had already wrestled him on like a Battle Club show, and I was like, all right, it's kind of weird, but like I'll make it work, whatever. So yeah, like that just kind of like added fuel to my fire, being like, all right, this guy, like, he's not like doing anything to me personally, but he's just kind of like making me not want to be here. And I had kind of told him that in no uncertain terms. I was like, well, look, like, and he had stopped using Kip for whatever reason. I know the reason why he stopped using Kip.
I know the reason. I remember the reason as well. It always seemed kind of fishy, and I really wish I'd have remembered just to like ask Kip and not even put it on the show.
Yeah, it wasn't really, I don't know. It wasn't super justified, I'd say. But I was like, all right, look, like if you're gonna use Kip, whatever, but like, give me something to do. Otherwise, like, don't use me anymore. And he was like, no, I'm gonna find something for you, whatever. Like, you've been really loyal to me, and you're always helping out, and you're always here, and you're always like, down to do whatever. And then again, like the thing with the match we had in the burning building, basically, he didn't tell me shit. And then like I hear your promo, and I was like, oh, I guess we're teaming up now. Like, what the fuck? Okay. Like, all he told me was, all right, do this promo, and then just like don't put him over at the end, just kind of be like, oh, maybe he's not so bad after all, or whatever. And then I hear your promo, and you're like, all right, we're going to team up at the next show. I was like, what the fuck? Like, where did they come from? And then he never used me again, but he only ran like one show after that, so it's fine.
Right. I mean, yeah, it was a complete and utter fucking garbage fest. But yeah, no, like this is just the message for in general, and I'm sure you'll attest to it as well. It's so easy just to not fuck with people's money. Mm-hmm. Especially when so in this case, I legitimately told him, like, as I was leaving that night, I go, hey dude, the last couple of months I've paid my bills off wrestling, so I'm gonna bump my rate up a little bit just so that I can keep doing that. Just don't fuck me. And I shook his hand, looked him in the eyes, I won't fuck you, we're good. Which is why I think it matters more personally to me. But, like, it's so easy just not to fuck with people's money. So if you're going to cancel on someone or not use them, just let them know, or, like, anything like that. It's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Should be promoter 101. But that night as well, like, and to cap off that specific night before we move on to anything else, remember how I said earlier on, it's like I didn't want to fuck with the ring because I didn't want any responsibility when people, someone got hurt.
Yeah.
Well, the main event, which happened, I think, 7 hours after doors open.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah. It's Loki and Penta. And, oh my god, I forgot I'm blanking on the best part of the show, so I'll do that after this. So Loki and Penta are your main event. They go out, they do, I think, like half the time they were supposed to do because, like, again, 7 hours. And Penta gets on the mic and, after the match, to kind of, put things over and Loki is just like, yo, we gotta do this again, except not in a fucked up ring. Fuck this ring. Just like, and just Loki was ready to fucking swing on the ring. And I'm like, well, glad I didn't have anything to do with that shit. But the greatest part of all of this was after this main event match. Do you remember this part?
I had left. I left.
Oh, you were gone.
Right after our match because I was with Johnny Silver and he was driving. So yeah, we left like shortly after our match.
So I was getting my stuff together to leave, and we find out that the promoter, in his infinite promoter wisdom, decided to book after the advertised main event of two massive names, the first time wrestling, to book another match, an impromptu match between the champion, Darius Carter, and Mike Verna, where Darius dropped the title to Verna in 2 minutes, literally as the entire crowd is rushing out of this 100+ degree heat box to get fresh air outside after they watched two, world-class athletes put on the best match they could in a death trap ring. Out comes Darius, out comes Verna, and there's an impromptu extra match that no one paid attention. And I remember, Verna, he's like the sweetest, most positive dude, and like he was backstage with the title because he won it, just kind of like that was. He was like, that was fucking terrible. Like, what the fuck?
I could picture it.
Yeah, and Darius wasn't happy either, probably because he was losing, but Darius.
Yeah.
Yeah. That fucking story is something else. God damn. You and I could sit here and bullshit fucking shindy stories for life. I was telling, I forgot who I was talking to both Bronson and Boulder about trying to do a round table, like maybe like a Zoom round table of just everyone talking like the worst and shittiest of shindy stories. And like you, of course, were number one on the list, as is Joe. You and Joe were like, and that we got to get people in on it just to do an entire show based off of the worst shindy stories ever.
Joe and I call each other shindy fuckheads all the time. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So final question of the show. I always ask people, because I feel personally in the first year of wrestling, you meet the weirdest and most interesting people possible. So Nick Stapp, who in your first year or around that time was the most unique, weirdest, craziest, off-the-wall wrestling personality that you met?
That's man.
Because you went to Gleason's too, so like there's definitely some ones there. See,
I'm thinking more like PWS. There's a lot. I guess to give like. See, this is hard because I don't want to do anyone services because I did run into a lot of strange situations in my first year. Again, this is really hard. I'm trying to like go over the Rolodex of shit in my brain. As you were laying out this question, I thought of One Warrior Nation.
Oh my God, yes.
And it wasn't even that he was particularly crazy or anything like that. It was just I had such a weird, like, kind of off-putting interaction with him. So basically,
before you get into that, give anyone who hasn't ever seen or heard of this guy, give a little bit of background into who One Warrior Nation was.
You're missing out, first of all. He's a man who, okay. So I'll give him his due. He looks like Ultimate Warrior if Ultimate Warrior never got into wrestling, never got into bodybuilding, never touched a weight, and was just worked for like joined the electricians union. But also played in a Motley Crue cover band on the weekends.
I didn't know that. That's fucking great.
No. I'm just saying that's what.
Oh, it's believable.
I'm saying for those at home, picture Ultimate Warrior if he had never worked out in his life, thought he was a cool dad and like let his hair grow out because he was in a Motley Crue cover band on the weekends.
And was also a full foot shorter.
Oh yeah, like legit, yeah, like 7-8 inches shorter than Ultimate Warrior, like pot belly, like the whole. Basically, okay, so picture if you put Ultimate Warrior's head on for lack of a better, I have someone in my brain and I can't. Who was the guy who wrestled Max Mini at Ground Zero 97?
Jesus Christ.
Torito?
I was going to say that's a Troy Nelson question. That's not a Logan Black question.
I think it was Torito. Not El Torito that we know from now, but I think his name was just Torito. Just a little like stout. All right, never mind. El Dandy. Let's say you put Ultimate Warrior's head on El Dandy's body. And El Dandy was great, and he was like, one of my like low-key fave wrestlers when I was younger. But yeah, so put Ultimate Warrior's head on El Dandy's body, give him a shitty Ultimate Warrior tattoo. He comes out, he does the whole Ultimate Warrior entrance. But like, so everyone thinks that Ultimate Warrior wasn't a good wrestler by any stretch of the imagination, but at least the stuff he did looked convincing enough that he could pass for as a television competitive fake fighter. This guy did all the Ultimate Warrior stuff, but with maybe like 1/64th of the energy and precision. I don't know if that explanation really.
I think that's a pretty great explanation of who he is. It will forever upset me that One Warrior Nation got to wrestle in the Brooklyn Cyclone Stadium, and I never did. But
I didn't.
Whatever.
I didn't know about that, but.
Yeah, no, it'll forever haunt me. But continue, Nick.
Did not know about that. So, Ultimate Warrior, One Warrior Nation. Apparently, in real life, his real job is he is a prison guard at the Rahway prison. So he knows a lot of people in Rahway. So PWS would use him in like super novelty matches because he would sell 20, 30, whatever tickets. First show, it wasn't even at the Rahway Rec Center because the Rec Center said they were going to be ready to be open for that show, and then they weren't. So we ended up doing a show at the soccer stadium, like across the parking lot, which is still a decent sized venue, but it's not the Rec Center. It was my first show there. It was, I think, like September 20th, 2013. I'm weird with dates. I was in a gimmick battle royal. And this is the first time I met friend of the show Shoes / Revolting Blob / Maximus X Power, because he was in it too. It was just a hodgepodge of shit. One Warrior Nation was supposed to be in this thing, and then once he found out that he wasn't winning, and it was just basically he said like, "Oh, I'm too big of a star to be." And this is, I think Kevin Matthews passed this along to me, but I believe it because it sounds insane enough that it would come out of this guy's mouth. He said, I'm a bigger star than to be in some student battle royal. I'll just be an enforcer. So we all go out to the ring. Here comes One Warrior Nation. We all get in the ring. He gets in the ring. The bell rings. He leaves the ring and he stands outside and he is an enforcer. So my spot that I called for myself because I am a selfish child, I wanted to be the first person eliminated. So at the time, we had a character at PWS called King Hippo. He was a pudgy dude who portrayed King Hippo from the video game Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for Nintendo. Literally, the bell rang, and I told him, run over to me and punch me, and I'm going to throw myself out of the ring. Because I was like, I'm new. Nobody really knows who I am. So, like, what's more memorable than the idiot who gets thrown out literally 2 seconds into the Rumble? So I did that. I get thrown out. Whatever. I'm going to walk to the back, and One Warrior Nation grabs me, and I'm like, why is this guy touching me? And he turns me around and says, take a chop, brother. And I said, why? And he said, just take a chop, brother, and gives me the shittiest chop I've ever seen in my life. And then I just completely no-sold it and just walked away from him. And then after it was over, Kevin Matthews basically told him, get your shit and get the fuck out or we're all going to beat you up. So yeah, that's Warrior Nation. There's other ones, like there's the Wizard and there's, just Eric Tapout in general was kind of a psychopath in his own right. So there's other ones, but literally the first one who came to mind was One Warrior Nation.
I think honestly, like looking back at that, I completely blanked on that guy like forever, but he was among like those super interesting people. Are you familiar with Mambo King?
Vaguely. Yes. Where's explain a little bit because
only because you brought up One Warrior Nation as a guy who did a really shitty version of fucking Ultimate Warrior. Mambo King swore because he used to run shows. Dirtbag Dan, as a gift for my birthday one year, gave me Mambo King's wrestling promotion, like the VHS tapes of their shows, which was literally because Mambo was too cheap to buy like the blank tapes. He would like tape over tapes that he had bought of like Home Alone or like whatever other thing. So literally you'd have like 5 seconds of Home Alone and then like, boom, we're in Jersey City for a Mambo King promo. I digress. You and I need to sit down once all this shit's done. We have to watch these and fucking do commentary. Because, there's a match. Pinky Sanchez is literally wrestling in a fucking living room. It's amazing.
Wait, when is this? What year is this from?
I couldn't tell you. Like 2008, 2009.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
I was
earlier.
gonna say because Kevin, he gave me his like his DVD compilation of his really shitty matches, and one of them was involving Matt Striker literally a wrestling show in someone's living room, but it was like 2001 or something like that.
Yeah,
so
no, this is way after that. So the reason I compare him to One Warrior Nation is because Mambo King swore to everybody that at some point towards the end of WCW, La Parka was having issues getting into the States. Visa issues, so to speak. So, Eric Bischoff, instead of, I don't know, going to literally any other luchador, went to Mambo King.
Yes.
And Mambo King had wrestled as La Parka on a number of episodes of Nitro. And according to Mambo King, he has checks signed by Eric Bischoff in somewhere in his house. Now, if you don't believe me, I got him in my house. Now, I say this only because if anyone who's listening in wants to actually look up a Mambo King match, or La Parka USA is what he called himself. The guy, I mean, listen, I don't claim to be an athlete by any means. I could fall with style. That's about all I've got. But my man was in no way, shape, or form ever a luchador, nor could he bump. Like, the guy was completely untrained. And ran shows, of course. It's New Jersey. So, yeah, swore that he was La Parka and had his La Parka USA. It's not even like the guy invested in the La Parka gear. Whereas, like, One Warrior Nation, like, he invested in that gear.
Mm-hmm.
La Parka USA, or Mambo King La Parka, Mambo Parka, whatever, would literally, it was a La Parka mask, a t-shirt, a black t-shirt with like, it was like airbrushed in, it said like La Parka and like had like some things on it, and then like fucking sweatpants. Like I'm swearing to you, dude, we gotta watch these tapes. You would have a field day with this shit. Well, I don't think we're gonna top fucking One Warrior Nation or La Parka USA. Nick, where can we find you on social media?
I'm at Nick Stapp OK on everything pretty much. Twitter, Instagram. I just made a Patreon, so if you want to look at my thirst traps and watch me do live watch-alongs of my old shitty matches, I have a Patreon under Nick Stapp. What I have coming up is literally nothing, so that's unfortunate. I'm used to the off the hop rope closing where like, all right, Nick, where are we finding? What do you have coming up? And I'm like, I have nothing coming up. It's miserable. But yeah, Nick Stapp, okay.
And we're all in that same boat as you. We're gonna make it through this, Nick, and then we're gonna have some fun. Again, once this clears up, we'll be wrestling again, and then you'll be able to see it was TMPW, Total Mayhem Pro Wrestling. That's what we're gonna watch.
Anyway,
it's like the original NYWC where Pat Buck trained under Brimstone was Critical Mass Pro Wrestling.
Nick, again, this has been so much goddamn fun. This has been like it's literally there's all straight comedy and positivity. I couldn't expect more out of a guest. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thank you.
Huge thanks to Nick Stapp for joining us on the podcast, and truth be told, I know Nick stands fully in solidarity with what's currently going on. So on behalf of myself and Nick, here are some places that would really appreciate your generosity or your time. Make sure to check them out. Unicorn Riot is a non-profit media collective dedicated to exposing the root causes of social, economic, and environmental issues. You can check them out at unicornriot.ninja. You've got the GoFundMe going for George Floyd. You just go ahead on GoFundMe and type in George Floyd's name, and it should come up. They have by far exceeded their goals, but could always use more. Also, make sure to check out, Google search any of these bail funds. People's City Council Ticket Fund, Colorado Freedom Fund, Atlanta Solidarity Fund, Chicago Community Bond Fund, Louisville Community Bail Fund, Baltimore Action Legal Team, Massachusetts Bail Fund, Detroit Bail Fund, and my hometown, Brooklyn Bail Fund. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. This is Jake telling you, be awesome to each other. Peace and love.